Evil Dead movie review, action. Welcome to my 31 Days of Horror. Today we're looking at Evil Dead, the 2013 remake slash reboot of the 1982 classic. Now this movie is pretty amazing. Let me just start by saying that. This is probably hands down one of the grittiest, most bloodiest horror movies I own in my collection. I don't have Dead Alive, I've heard that's a bloody movie, but this is hands down a horror movie masterpiece. This movie is directed by Fede Alvarez, who directed Don't Breathe in 2016, and it stars the same actress in that movie, Jane Levy. She's in this movie and in Don't Breathe, and in this movie she's definitely a lot better. The role she has to play in this movie goes through so much shit, and the way she portrays Mia in this movie is just beautiful. Like, you really feel for her. They take the aspect of the original movie and they add a new twist to it. They add rules and like more mythology about how you destroy the demon. There's 3 different ways to destroy it. You can burn it, dismember it, or bury them alive, which I always found that to be interesting because you didn't really get that in the original. And also in this movie, they go to this cabin that they used to own as his brother and sister. When they were children, they had this cabin, and now they go back there years later because they want the daughter, no, it's the sister, Mia. She's a heroin addict, and they want her to basically quit drugs, and they're going to trap her in this cabin until she's completely just over drugs. So then naturally when she's having withdrawals and she's seeing crazy shit happen around her, she's the only one that knows what's going on. When she tries to convince the other ones about what's going on, they just pass it off like she's just having withdrawals and she's just going nuts. Which is just a very smart writing situation. That's very smart. And it's not a cliche situation where teenagers are just going to a cabin because they just want to have fun and do drugs. This is a very new, fresh take on the horror genre. No longer do you need to just have cliche typecast characters with like a stoner, a slut, which, the Cabin in the Woods makes fun of. What I like about this movie is the characters are not just total shitheads. One of them makes a dumb decision who you're gonna hate, but at the end of the day, they're still all good characters, and therefore there's more impact when they're just getting picked off by this evil spirit. This movie even opens up with just a woman being sacrificed and possessed. It really has the Exorcist vibe in this movie, and this movie is The Exorcist times 1,000 in intensity. This movie does all practical effects, I think. There might be like a hint of CGI here or there, but it's all practical, and I love that. This movie probably went through thousands of gallons of blood. It literally rains blood in this movie because they had this book that explains step by step what's going to happen as the possession of this girl enhances, and it just gets more and more of her soul, and she's gone. And it tells you everything that's about to happen, and it still has quite an impact when you see it. This is a very good isolation movie. Like, you don't get bored by the setting. There's so much going on that you're never like, oh, we're stuck in this cabin. Why can't they just get out? There's a reason why they can't get out. For some reason, this cabin only has one road that goes in and out of this woods area. For some reason, there's just one way. Everything else is trees, and there's just one path that leads to a bridge, and a crazy hurricane slash heavy rain damages the bridge, and they're flooded, and now they're stuck there. Which I'm glad they show that, because then you'd just be stuck asking the whole movie, why don't they just leave? And they do show you that. So there's smart written situations in this movie that answers your question about this is why they can't leave, this is why they're here. There's a point. There's totally lots of body damage in this movie with like boiling blisters and just getting stabbed with needles. If you're afraid to get shots, you don't want to watch this movie. This guy gets a shot 50 times, and then he gets a thicker needle with a nail gun later on, and this character who gets all this damage done to him, he's the main reason behind this evil that gets released. So therefore I feel like they purposely fucked him up because they knew the audience was going to be like, yeah, fuck this character, it's all his fault, he deserves the most pain. And boy, do they give him a lot of pain. When they get there, they find this book that just mysteriously is in the basement of this place that apparently they used to have as children with their parents. They give you a lot of emotional background about the heroine sister and the brother who's just trying to help her out. They give you a lot of backstory. They don't just try to just make bland characters in this movie. But for some reason, there's this book that's just now in the basement, and it's made of like flesh that's stitched together, and it doesn't even burn. And this book in it says, don't read these words, don't say it, don't hear it. And this dumbass teacher, I think he's a high school teacher, his name's like Chris, he opens it up and he just goes way out of his way through techniques to like somehow find out what these words are and then say them out loud so he can hear them and say it. What an idiot. Then you got the brother character who's in so much denial about what's going on with his sister that it gets to a point where you're like, seriously, buddy, like, admit that your sister is gone. She's not normal. Because even by like the third act of this movie, like, just like, he's still on the side of maybe it's just withdrawal. It's like, no, it's possession. Which I can understand. Like, if I put myself in his shoes, I would try to convince myself that maybe that could be it, because no one wants to believe that their sibling that they love is possessed. But at the end of the day, that's still just too much denial.
You are all going to die tonight.
This movie tries to pay homage to a couple of the sequels, especially the original, with the whole cellar thing and the possessed girl peeking her head. Definitely the creepiest moments of this movie are the girl in the cellar peeking her head out, licking a switchblade, a box cutter, I mean, just stabbing, just all kinds of body mutilation in this movie. There's so much blood and great awesome effects in this movie that looks so real that even if you, like, I watched this with my family and they couldn't even watch. They kept looking away. Another couple of homage things I do, I think things I picked up is where at the end when Mia loses her hand and she uses a chainsaw on the other, she doesn't attach a chainsaw to her stub, but it's still kind of paying homage to Army of Darkness when Bruce Campbell gets the chainsaw hand. I think that's what they were going for there. And Bruce Campbell did produce this movie. He was probably on set a lot, throwing ideas out. And he was totally behind this movie. He just didn't want someone to have to replace Ash. This movie doesn't have an Ash, and it doesn't need one. This movie does a lot of good things to build up tension, and it's going in the bathroom and you just hear the sound designs they use for like cutting flesh in this movie. Even just hearing what's going on, you don't even have to see it. It still makes you feel uneasy. And it's just an awesome way that they were able to pull that off. And then they show you it. The woman just tearing her face off. That was awesome. Now the book says they have to kill 5 people. This ghost or the spirit has to kill 5 people and then there's blood and rain. And I guess you could say technically 5 people did die. Even though Mia comes back, her brother revives her. So then technically it's only 4 people, but it still rains blood. So I think there was kind of, maybe they counted her, and that's why it started raining blood. But to me, it feels like they kind of cheated just to make it rain blood and have a reason for this official ghost to come out of the ground. And they said the only 3 ways to destroy someone who's possessed is, like I said, dismemberment, fire, and burial. But the woman who was cutting off her face, she never got any of those 3 treatments. She just got, smashed her in the head with a toilet seat thing. And then later on, I guess the whole house went in flames and therefore everybody got burnt. So I guess that counts in the end. But why did she die immediately? I don't know. I'm just trying to understand the lore better and think that maybe they kind of messed up, or maybe those rules only apply to the first possessed person. I don't know. But other than that, there's really nothing else wrong with this movie. It does a great job. Takes an interesting, cliche situation and actually gives reason to be there. Gives you good characters, great special effects, awesome tension, and this movie is definitely worth seeing. But not only is it worth seeing, I think this is a movie that all horror fans need to watch. So therefore, when it comes to Evil Dead 2013, to me, this movie is just a masterpiece. I feel like this movie 30 years from now will be our generation's classic. Just like the original Evil Dead is said to be a horror classic in the 80s, this is today's 2010s classic. Even though it's technically a remake, therefore it's not original, they do add a few elements in this movie that make it a little bit different than the original movie. So therefore it still counts as kind of an original. I'm going to give the Mr. Hat Award to Chris. Seeing as how he's the one who released the spirit, he definitely deserved all the damage he got, and good riddance. The Mr. Twig Award will go to Mia's brother, who sacrifices himself to kill Chris. So long, brother. Those are my thoughts on the 2013 remake of Evil Dead. Did you see this movie? You must own it. Watch it at least once. Watch it with your family and gross them out. But those are my thoughts, and remember to hit that like button and to subscribe by clicking on my beautiful cartoon face in 5 seconds for more rantastical awesome content. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.